That's all right. I was just waiting for the recording to start. Hello, everyone. My name's Els Churchill. I'm the genealogist at the Society of Genealogists, and it's our great pleasure to welcome you to another collaboration on researching county ancestors. This time it's a collaboration between the Society of Genealogists, Hertfordshire Archives and Local Studies, and Hertfordshire Family History Society. And we'll be learning about family history sources for the county of Hertfordshire at Hertfordshire Archives and Local Studies, Hertfordshire Family History Society. We'll be learning about the facilities offered through the Vision of Britain Through Time and the Victoria County Histories. But as the Society is hosting this first option, it's my turn to kick off. I'm sure you know that we have another physical opportunity for people to use the resources in the library coming up on later this week, and I hope I'll be seeing a few of you there. And also, I know that there are other events being held by the participants in this collaboration, but I've got a lot to talk through. I'm supposed to be talking for about 15, might reach to 20 minutes to cover everything about the SOG, and I'm going to have to talk quite quickly to pack it all in. Of course, you will get a copy of my slides, and there'll be other handouts from the other participants in the in this event. And of course, if you'll have a link to the recording sent to you. But the Society's Genealogist Research Hub at Wharf Road comprises library books, electronic and micromedia on and off the shelves, and therefore you'll need to use catalogues. Our own library catalogue, known as SOGCAT, and as a Family Search affiliate library, you can use Family Search's catalogue to see what items can be viewed at the Society. In addition to our library of books, electronic and micromedia on and off the shelves, we are an archive with manuscript documents, research papers, notes and special collections, and pedigrees, all of which are off-site, but we do have PDF lists on the library pages of our website, giving you a rough idea of what's in the archive collections. And of course, there is our online provision, SOG Explore, with our digital collections, indexes, databases, and indeed books from the library, all of which are described on the library information pages on the website sog.org.uk. We seek to create a working genealogical research hub concentrating on collecting sources relating, of course, on how to, textbooks, guides, journals and periodicals. What did your ancestors do in their lives, such as occupational records, education, apprenticeship, military service, etc., etc., etc. We particularly like to concentrate on what research has been done before by encouraging and collecting compiled family histories and lots of pedigrees, genealogy research notes, ephemera, family papers, etc. And of course, collect sources relating to what your ancestors, sorry, to where your ancestors lived. That includes UK and overseas genealogy resources and records, and that includes indexes, finding aids, copies and transcripts of vital records, marriage, death, marriage, birth and death records, church baptisms, marriages and burials, census directories, and all other local records that we can find. In addition to prints, micromedia and digital items, there are manuscript topographical papers, and I'm going to endeavour to cover a lot of all of that in relation to Hertfordshire. So there's the website pages for the library pages for the Research Hub, tells you how you can visit us, how you can book a place to view items in the library, and also giving you links to our various catalogues and how you can order in items which are not on the shelves, because not everything is on the shelf at our new library in Wharf Road. We've been downsizing, we've reduced the physical footprints of the holdings of our collections, so a substantial amount is in store. On the library shelves listed here in red, you find resources for the UK and Ireland, bookshelves, general and local items, of course, quick reference and textbooks, multimedia, CDs, digital media, microfiche, will be in the library, but things like registers, monumental inscriptions, etc., which you might have known in our previous library, have all been scanned and will be viewable as scanned PDFs of the books at Wharf Road rather than be on the open shelves. Everything else there listed in white would need to be ordered in, having identified what you need from the catalogues. And if you are a bit confused, just please do drop us a line through the contact pages and we can help you wade your way through how to find things in the catalogues. A typical county collection within our collection will include what we call general items, things that cover the whole county, such as county histories, pedigrees, and genealogies. There might be indexes to wills, taxes, such as published hearth tax indexes, or any finding aids and guides to records. Local items, i.e. specific information relating to a particular place within the county. For Hertfordshire, there's 626 local items listed in SOG, and those are mostly on the shelves at Wharf Road. And those can include parish histories, parish chest records, such as, for example, extracts of rate books, borough, freeman, local sources that are not in church records, for example. Registers can include copies, transcripts, indexes, and finding aids, and there are 860 items that come up relating to Hertfordshire in our library catalogue. Those transcripts are identified in the catalogue as in book form, as I said, and not on the open shelves, but are scanned and can be ordered to view the digital copies at Wharf Road. And these church registers will cover the Church of England, christenings, marriages and burials, nonconformists and other denominations. There are a lot of transcriptions of monumental inscriptions, MIs from churchyards and cemeteries, 419 items relating to Hertfordshire in the catalogue. And again, those transcripts identified in the catalogue as in book form aren't on the shelves, but have been scanned and can be ordered to view at Wharf Road. There's a significant number of directories, poll books and periodicals, all of which are listed in the library catalogue, which you will find on the search collections page of the website, and there is a link to the home page of the library catalogue, or you can follow the simple pathway by just putting the name of a parish, or for example, to see what resources we might hold. I'm going to start browsing the catalogue, some subject headings for Hertfordshire that might be of interest. Generally, you can browse by subject headings. That's typical library speak. Typical of what we might have for the whole county are the general items. A to Z, from anything from apprentices through to workhouses. For example, you'll see a lot of material for general history. There's about 70 odd items relating to just the history of the county. And of course, we have the county histories compiled by Clatterbuck, Chauncey, Cousins, and the Victoria County histories. For example, that we're going to hear about more about in the Hertfordshire for General Family History section. There's probably about 40 odd items that come up just on that subject heading. Tracing your family history in Hertfordshire, of course, is a standard textbook guide. The Hertfordshire Families, the Victoria History of the Counties of England, History of Hertfordshire Genealogical volume. That's quite rare. I found several libraries have a copy of it, but I can't find a digital copy online. I think only 2 counties of the Victoria County History series had the genealogical supplements, so maybe we'll hear a bit more about those later on. We also, of course, have things like pedigrees of Hertfordshire families compiled by William Berry. William Berry was born on the 5th of November 1772, the son of William Berry and his wife Elizabeth. In his early career, spanning sort of 1793 to 1809, he was employed as a writing clerk to the registrar of the College of Arms. He's perhaps best known for his county genealogies, published in small folio volumes and sold at 5 or 6 guineas a volume. And he covered counties of Kent, Sussex, Hampshire, example. And his later volumes were printed by lithography from his own handwriting, and that includes the Berry Hertfordshire volumes. And his work was quite harshly reviewed in the Gentleman's Magazine, with exception being taken to his identifying himself as a registering clerk at the College of Arms, and he actually was involved with a lawsuit with the college. But however, it's an interesting early compilation of pedigrees, and I found them actually to be generally quite reliable for its time. And I think it pretty much says more about the lawsuit says more about the college trying to take aggressive action to anyone who deemed to be a threat to their practice in the 19th century. But again, these are quite nice, and we've digitized those and put those on SOG Explore. We also have some very early Hertfordshire antiquarian journals, such as the Hertfordshire Genealogists and Antiquary volumes 1 to 3, published at the end of the 19th century, and we've also digitized these on SOG Explore. This is very typical of its antiquarian genealogical journal of its time, with extracts and lists of early records, such as notes and families, or an extract from a family Bible for Shepherd and Freeman families. And so it's a nice little interesting snippets for Hertfordshire. Continuing the search for general items for the whole county, we'll have guides for nonconformists and Quakers to quarter sessions, etc. We have Alan Ruston's Nonconformity in Hertfordshire, a guide to sources for family and local historians, one of the excellent publications from the Hertfordshire Family History Society, which of course we'll have collected. And we've digitised and put online William Erwick's Nonconformity in Hertfordshire, being lectures upon the nonconforming worthies of St Albans and memorials of Puritanism and nonconformity in all the parishes of the county of Hertfordshire, published at the end of the 19th century. Quaker records include copies from Friend's House of the relevant Quaker digests of births, marriages and deaths registered with the various quarterly meetings that covered the county. We have the published quarter sessions and county record volumes, and of course transcripts of those remarkable militia lists that survive for the county and which are transcribed and indexed and published by Hertfordshire Family History Society. The Society's 860 items of Hertfordshire registers include transcripts made by Thomas Frederick Allen, FSG, in the 1950s and 60s, inspired by Percival Boyd's Marriage Index, which only includes partial marriage entries for 49 out of the 152 ancient Hertfordshire parishes, but they're online as well. Thomas Allen was keen to compile a county-wide and comprehensive index to marriages taking place in Hertfordshire. He transcribed entries from parish registers and BTs and kept a card index at the Hertfordshire County Record Office. And I'm sure we'll hear more about the digitisation of that card index later on. It was noted by Anthony Camp, past director of the SOG and president of the Hertfordshire Family History Society, so we've always had links with the county, that the index was particularly rich in marriages of Londoners for the southern part of the county and contained lots of banns. And he was the first to note how many marriages Allen had found for the Commonwealth period. Copies of Allen's transcripts were filmed by Family Search and are dispersed in several places. Volunteers at the SOG created a database of his marriage transcripts that he typed up and deposited here in the 1950s, and this is now available as the Hertfordshire Marriage Index 1538 to 1837 on SOG Explore. And in fact, there may be slight discrepancies between the various databases drawn from Allen's works, and I think it's always interesting to compare the two. We, of course, have purchased published transcripts and indexes, such as the Fleet Marriages of Hertfordshire People to 1754, an alphabetical list of grooms and brides, transcribed and compiled by Jack Parker, and again published by the Hertfordshire Family History Society. And as I said, all the bound register transcripts and MIs formerly on the open shelves have been scanned and put online. Can be viewed in the library until we're in the position to upload them online. The 410 items of MIs, or monumental inscriptions, include transcriptions made by the Hertfordshire antiquarian and folklorist William Blythe Gerrish, as we have a microfilm of his published works, and some transcriptions made in broader SOG collections, such as the 804 gravestone inscriptions from the county of Hertfordshire, recorded by Arthur Waite Matthews in the Old Mortality book series at the SOG. And the Whitehead and Snell collections have lots of information on MIs from Hertfordshire, and we have hundreds of others. So the registers and the MIs are all listed in the library catalogue, and you can search by place to see what we have. If you search, for example, in the SOG library catalogue by place, such as for Ashwell in Hertfordshire, you'll see that we've got 31 items listed in the catalogue for this parish. These include local records, such as copies and transcripts of parish chest records, overseers records, accounts, histories and guides, copies of original records, transcripts and index records for the Church of England parishes and various nonconformist chapels. The parish is covered by Boyd's Marriage Index, the Allen Marriage Index, and the Cambridgeshire Family History Society. Christenings, marriages and burial indexes. I don't know why, but it is. We've got monumental inscriptions taken from W.B. Gerrish's collections, as well as those published by Hertfordshire Family History Society, and MIs for the parish, the cemetery, and Quaker burial grounds, and of course, militia lists for the parish. Some other local items that you might find, for example, here's a copy and a transcript, an index for staff records for the record books for the business of Thomas Rochford and Sons Nursery at Turnford in Roxbourne. Somebody donated the a photocopy of the staff books, and one of our volunteers transcribed and created an index of it. We've got several books by Reginald Hine, local historian of Hitchin, and including a history of the town, his autobiography and family history, and the story of Hitchin Quakers, and his work Hitchin Worthies. And I love his comments on what makes a worthy. Gallant characters, part racy, and with a touch of eccentricity, not just honourable. And it makes quite good, nice, chatty, ready local history. And biographies are not just of men, but of Agnes Beaumont, who is a friend of John Bunyan's, has got a nice extensive biography in the Hitchin Worthies. Turning to our online SOG platform, SOG Explore, there are, for example, references to the name Camp in Hertfordshire. What a surprise, amongst several online digital collections from our library and archives, including member birth briefs, taxed apprenticeship for the long 18th century, references from our Great Card Index, Bank of England will extracts, entries in Boyd's Marriage Index and the Hertfordshire Marriage Index, and several digitised and indexed Hertfordshire poll books from the library, all of which can be viewed online by SOG members. The new A to Z listing of datasets on SOG Explore identifies 16 online collections, particularly relating to Hertfordshire, including records indexed by names, digital and browsable books, such as directories and poll books, and index registers. Where a collection has no indexed entries, it's usually a browsable item where there should be images to look through. We're still working on uploading some of the images, but again, SOG Explore has come on leaps and bounds, especially by using the new A to Z listing, where you can explore and identify and drill down to particular collections. So here, for example, I can find the indexed Hertfordshire poll books. That's got a data set for 1832 and 1835, and for the Borough of St Albans, which you can search across or browse the images of the various poll books online. Books listed in the SOG Library Catalogue, which indicate they've been scanned and digitised on and put online on SOG Online, can be identified using the SOG Explore A to Z listings and browse to the pages to read from home. So you can see we have a couple of Hertfordshire directories listed in the Library Catalogue as being digitised and online, and you can find them on SOG Explore. As I say, there's some of the digitised post office directories to browse through. And just to finish up, there are also, in addition to the books in the library, about 150 boxes of topographical place papers, some of which have been microfiche, but mainly still in manuscript form. By topographical, we mean pertaining to or dealing with a place rather than the name, coming from the term topography, which the OECD defines as the science or describing of a particular place, city, town, manor. So these are basically documents in our archives. They've come from a variety of ways of coming to the Society. They may have been donations or indeed clearances of solicitors' deed boxes, which have come to us via the British Record Association, which acts as a clearinghouse for dispersals of unwanted bits and pieces, such as, for example, here in one of the folders in the Hertfordshire topographical box concludes various manuscripts, notes relating to Anwell. There's a history of the parish, 16 bound pages, and notes by DGC Elwes, indexing certificates and charters, rolls, land deeds and other documents for the New River Company in Amwell. He's also made some transcriptions of close rolls for the 17th century for the parish, indexes to indentures and abstracts, again for 17th century documents, close rolls and other things. We haven't finished listing all of the folders in the Hertfordshire topographical box, just the first two. In fact, I think there's about another 4 folders still to go. But the listing we've done so far can be found through the library pages of the website. As I say, it's pretty much a miscellany of documents that have ended up at the Society, but they are, and while a lot of them are descriptions and listings of documents, sometimes there are occasionally original documents here, such as not quite listed in that yet, but as part of the listing process, we've just come across a 1768 lease for a Messuage tenement and shop and stable in Hempstead for 1768 for a property known as the Sign of the Half Moon in Hempstead. And again, some other extracts of records relating to Hempstead found at Taunton Castle, for example. As I say, the Society is an affiliate partner with Family Search, and again, you can search the Family Search catalogue to see which items Family Search have digitised and which can be viewed at the Society. So again, typical copies of standard church records, for example, may well have been created by Family Search and viewable at the SOG. So I do hope that this overview has given you an inclination to come and see what you can view at the Society of Genealogists or use our search copy service, identifying items in the document collections or through the catalogue, and we can let you know if there is if there's an opportunity to copy those, and we'll let you know the costs of that involved. You can watch or catch up with the recording of this event at the Society on March 19th, and take a tour of the SOG library with our librarian, Christine Worthington, who can sort of show you around and be on hand, as I will be, to answer any questions. Or spend an afternoon focusing on your Hertfordshire roots, or join the group visits to Hertfordshire Archives and Local Studies. That's all coming up and listed in our events programme. Okay, I'm going to finish there and stop sharing.
Okay, now I'd like to welcome Sarah Kerrison, who is the Learning and Access Officer at Hertfordshire Archives and Local Studies Centre. Sarah.
Thank you very much, and thanks for inviting me to come and share some of the wonderful things that we have at Hertfordshire Archives. And hopefully this will persuade, if you haven't visited already, this will give you a flavour of what we can offer, both in person but also remotely, because we do have services that you can access over the internet. And I'll also be showing you hopefully some ways that you can find out more if you have questions. Firstly, I'm Sarah. I'm Learning and Access Officer. I cover a wide range of elements, events, but I'm not actually in the on the floor in the archive reading room all of the time. But we do a huge amount of different things across the archives. The Hertfordshire itself hasn't changed a huge amount geographically over time. This map shows the parliamentary constituencies in 1891, and the boundaries have changed very little over the centuries. Last major changes being in 1897 with the addition of the land around Royston, and in 1965 with the creation of the Greater London, Greater London, Barnet became a London borough, South Mimms ceased to be part of Middlesex, became part of Hertfordshire. There's a few bits round the edge that have moved in and out, shall we say, a little bit through time. We're a county with strong royal connections. We have palaces, many royal castles and palaces here, and it was seen as a healthy alternative to London. That's a theme that crops up many times through Hertfordshire's past. Hatfield House and Hunsdon were royal nurseries used by Henry VIII, and James I was very fond of Theobald's and Royston Hunting Lodge, but it goes back further than that. William the Conqueror accepted the surrender of the Anglo-Saxon elite at Berkhamsted in 1066. St Albans and Hertford were used to hold parliaments, and the first draft of the Magna Carta was written in St Albans. So how does this tie into family history? Well, we have some amazing estate records that you can delve into, but also we are a place that has a lot of roads and a lot of really good travel links. And when people travel, they leave traces behind, hopefully. And these are some things that I'll be going into a little bit more detail about, some of the things that you'll be able to find as we go through. This is a bit of a whistle-stop tour, so I won't be able to cover everything, but hopefully it will give you some pointers. We're a county, because of the proximity to London, we have been really good for industry. We have records relating to lots. I'm going to just talk briefly about one of our major collections, the Addis collection, and about how some of the people links that you might find there might be echoed in other industrial archives, and things that you might be able to find out about people in your families or people you're researching. For example, not only do we have minutes of meetings, information about the procedures to create brushes. Addis was initially a toothbrush manufacturer, but moved on to household brushes. Still, it's still a household name. We were laughing recently about the number of us who own Addis products at home. But because it was a Hertford-based company, we have a lot of records of the people who were working there. We have information about their the social committees, the working hours, the payroll records. We have lots of information about wartime. And these are all things, if you discover that one of your ancestors worked for Addis, then you may well have we may well have something in the archive that can help. We also have strong links to aerospace industry. We don't necessarily have all of the archives, but we might be able to point you towards the direction of people who do. The first paper mill in Hertford were dating from the going back a couple of hundred years. We have records of several in Hertford, but the first ones were going back to 1494, and it was a real centre of printing and paper manufacturing. And one of the first printing presses can be found at St Albans. There's also, of course, the film and creative industries, where a lot of really big name films have been made in recent years and continue to be made. We have a lot of records relating to the Second World War. We have diaries, we have records of the Home Guard, we have records of land girls. And there are some interesting links. A lot of the estates, the big estates in Hertfordshire, were used to train special operations executive operatives before that they were parachuted into Europe. And this included making the clothes, making sure all the labels were correct in the clothes that people were going to be sent overseas wearing. There was also although the bomb, the Alan Turing's code-breaking machine, was designed by him in Bletchley, the components were built in Hertfordshire, and they were actually made at the Sperella corset factory, because the people who worked there were experts in bending small wires into very specific shapes. So we've got a wide range of different industries during the war, wide range of people who were based here, who were serving, and these all might be ways that you can delve in and find a little bit more about your past. We also have a lot of information about the Garden City movement, both Garden Cities and new towns. And this was a time when a huge amount of population movement took place during the 20th century, but particularly with the new towns post Second World War. These were planned developments. The Ebenezer Howard started the first Garden City it was Letchworth in 1903. He was considered the father of the Garden City movement. And we have people coming from all over the world to study garden cities and new towns. We have a lot of documentation regarding the planning, the layouts, the architecture.
Oh, just a minute, Sarah. Sorry, for some reason you've just been muted. I'm not quite sure. I think there's something weird going on, because I was asked if I wanted to mute a minute ago.
Okay.
Unmute, and I'm the host, so someone's
Weird.
Clicking buttons strangely, I think. But
Okay.
sorry, yeah, you can carry on now. You'll need to reshare your screen.
Yeah, I shall do that now. Right, can you all see me again? Okay. Am I back visible and
yes,
audible?
It's all working fine now. Thank you.
Excellent. Sorry about that. Not quite sure what happened there. So we have, as part of our archive, we have the Commission for Newtown records, which cover the 4 new towns within Hertfordshire, sorry, and again contain a lot of information, a really wide range of information and sources relating to the Newtown movement and the Garden City movement. So where are we? Where can you find us? We are based at County Hall in Hertfordshire, but the history of the Record Office goes back to 1895 when the County Records Committee was formed. The first actual County Record Office opened in 1909, and we've been on site since 1939. Now we are looking at moving to a new building, but that will be that's a couple of years away. So you're still, if you're looking to visit us, this is the place to come to. We are the archives, but we're also local studies library. Until 97, they were separate entities. The local studies library fell very much under libraries, and the archives were separate. But you can come and visit both in the same building, and they are managed together. So I'll be talking a little bit more about the different things that you can discover in each room. They're currently 2 separate rooms, but within the same organisation. We want to share things with you. We want you to come and find about your family history and your interests. This is our mission statement, but generally we want people to be able to access things. So even though there are some documents that do have data restrictions and you might not be able to see the whole document, we will do our very best to make what we have available unless there is a really good reason that we can't share it. So we have a great team of people who work very hard to ensure that as many people as possible can access as much as possible. And we always work from the point that we can share, if at all possible, and then we might have to restrict the elements that you can see or only show you part of a document if there are privacy concerns for other people. But it's really important to us that we can share as much as possible. There's lots of different elements to the archives, including preservation. If we're not keeping an eye on documents, if we're not ensuring that they're kept in the best possible condition, that's it, we lose them. We can also provide a service where other people can commission our conservator to work on their own family documents. We also have organisations who ask us to do work. It is a chargeable service, but it's a very high standard of work, and we have been able to help people make their family documents, their organisational documents, last for a lot longer than otherwise. All our documents are kept in industry standard storage. We are an accredited archive, and there are very high standards that we have to keep for this. We have 3 stores, 2 off-site and 1 on. And that means that if you do come and visit us, we really recommend that you order up documents in advance, because if you have missed the production for the sites that are off, these stores that are off-site, it can mean that you might not be able to get them for several hours, or you might have missed the second production of the day and we just can't get to them at all. Now, hopefully, won't be a problem, but you can circumvent this just by making sure you order in advance. If you have, I'll talk a little bit later about our catalogue and finding things on there. If you're having trouble using the online catalogue, please get in touch with us. We have fantastic staff who will be able to help you find what you need. We have 2 public spaces. The lower image on the screen is the archive reading room. Excuse me. And the slightly higher image is the local studies library. These are both free to access. The local studies library, you do not need any form of documentation to come in. Anybody can just come in and have a browse. We've got lots of bookshelves. We've got microfilm and microfiche. We have maps. We have pamphlets. We have all sorts. Again, I'll be talking in a little bit more detail as we go through. but anybody can come in. The archive reading room, you do need to have a hart card. That's Hertfordshire Archives readers tickets. We're not members of CARN. You can get one very easily. You just need to bring identification, and we can give you more information about what we accept, but it's pretty broad, and we just need you to bring it with us so we can prove you are who you say you are. And every time you look at a document, we keep the records of that, and we keep them for 25 years. Not so much with us, but I know other archives have had issues with damage being caused, and then they've been able to trace back and find out which documents that somebody has looked at, just to make sure. It's a way of safeguarding the documents and making sure that they are protected as much as possible. However, it's an incredibly rare occurrence, but we keep those. We keep them for because it's a standard practice to keep them so that we have a record of who views them. I'm not going to go through all these lists now because we're going to go through as we come in under, but this is a rough overview of what we have in the archives and library. Official records, they will cover, we have the documents that relate to both the County Council currently, but also going back through time. Local government bodies before 1974, when Herts County Council was formed. We have parish records, district records, borough records, and but we also hold earlier records connected to local government, Board of Guardians, hospital records, coroner's records. There's a wide range of different records that we store. An example that we've given here is on the left is it's on the left of my screen. Is it on the left of your screen? The handwritten document is a petition dating from crumbs. I'm really sorry, I've not written down the date, but it's related to the Civil War. It's where somebody's husband was killed during the Civil War, and she's asking for relief for for herself and for her child who is not an apprentice already. There's some very personal records that we have as part of the official records. It's not all minutes and notes and meetings. We also have the records of the Diocese of St Albans within the Church of England. These are records that relate to the administration, and they're all held here at Hertfordshire Archives. They include parish records, marriage, birth, death, burials, bans of marriage, which can be very interesting as well, and also records relating to church wardens and other officials. You can see the rather beautiful document with the initial at the top is a page of marriage entries from Stevenage Parish Register from 1538. And then we have a burial record from 1665. Now, all the P's that you see mark somebody who died of the plague, we believe. But the records like this are a really useful way of uncovering your ancestors. I'm sure a lot of you have used parish records in various levels, and there's a wide range that we have available. We also have private records. Now, these don't mean that they are not accessible. It means that they are records of private individuals. And also records of business. We have records of businesses as well. They can include letters and other correspondence, diaries, financial records, minutes, plans, photographs. And you can see here an example that come from the Panshanger archive. These particular documents relate to Julian Grenfell, who was a soldier in the First World War and a poet. We have his diary, which stops the day before he was injured, and he died shortly afterwards of his wounds. We have a photo of him. We have the map he was holding when he was injured, and those are bloodstains upon it. And then we have a letter of condolence written to his mother, Etty Desborough, from Winston Churchill. There's a lot of very personal links to within the estate records, as well as the records of the individuals who owned the estate, who were the estate family, but we also have records of the people who were living and working on the estate at the time. We also have manorial records, and these survive from the late 13th century. These can be a really useful source for family history when you start to get back before the parish registers. They contain lists of tenants, of manorial court records, so much more. And they're often found in collections of family and estate papers, but we also sometimes get them through papers of solicitors. But they're really fascinating and also rather gorgeous to look at as well. Our local studies library has a great range of printed sources, including books, pamphlets, posters, and these are complemented by similar records in the archive. Now, the local studies library tends to have secondary sources, whereas the archive reading room tends to be the primary sources, and that's represented by the different levels of access and what we can allow people to see. We have a really wide range of maps and plans. The local studies library has about 12,000 ordnance survey maps. We have aerial photography maps, gauge maps of the layouts of towns with the businesses there. But we also have a lot of maps and plans in the archive dating from 1599. We have tithe maps, enclosure maps, estate maps, building plans. It's a really good resource when you want to find out a little bit more about particular areas. And we have a lot of prints and photographs. A lot of these are within the local studies library, so you can just go and access them by searching by place name in the files. And you can, we've had people who found records of family members who work maybe at a railway station, because there'll be an image of the station with the staff there. There are some school photos there, not necessarily many of the pupils, but there are certainly lots of the buildings, and some of individuals as well within a town or a village. We have 79 different newspaper titles, and these are mostly available on microfilm. You have, if you want to come and visit, again, local studies library, microfilm are free to use. We do charge a small fee for if you want to print something out, but we do advise you just to, particularly if you're coming a long way, just to get in touch with us in advance, and so that we can book you in a microfilm reader. We have a lot of online resources that are available. We can provide you with access to Ancestry, Find My Past, and the British Newspaper Archive, all free of charge. What you can't do is log into your existing account if you don't have a subscription and download things directly to it. But you can send records from, if you're accessing them free in the library, you can then send them to yourself. You can email them to yourself. You can download them, and you're able to do that all here. You can also do that in other Hertfordshire libraries, and I think some libraries further afield as well have subscriptions as well. It's worth just noting that the British Newspaper Archive, some of the transcription is a bit odd, shall we say. So occasionally, I think some of it is done automatically. So you sometimes need to try searching some different terms, but it's an incredible resource and you can access it free from us. We have a wide range of services that we can offer. In addition to the conservation service, we can do research for you. If you've reached a dead end, if you are struggling, if you have records that you find hard to read because of the paleography, because of the writing, we're able to provide a transcription service. We're able to make digital copies and send them to you if you're further afield. And we can also give talks and tours to organisations. These can be online, these can be on site, or these can be at an organisation's location. We also give tours, as we're giving to the Society of Genealogists in a week or so, and we have specific family history advisors. You can book a one-to-one family history surgery if you're reaching a dead end and you'd like some help. We have people who are experts who are working with you for this sort of thing. It is a chargeable service, but we can give you more information about this, and there's some on our website as well. We also have a series of family history detectives, we call them family tree detectives, of talks that happen throughout the year, and we're hoping to offer them all online as well as in person going forward. We have a lot of different exhibitions that go out, particularly to libraries and to other venues, as well as being visible on site. We hold events, document viewings. The lower photo here shows a project where we worked with an artist to create artworks inspired by the collection, the Threads of Time project some years ago. But we're always looking for different ways to get people to access the collection, to showcase our collection, and really to show people some of the amazing, exciting things that we have. We have, going back to online resources, this is part of our website, and I do apologize, it's a little bit, I've stretched it a little bit by accident, but from here you can search our catalogue. You can also look at Hertfordshire names online, which Felicity will be talking about shortly. There's links to some of the family history resources. You can find out more about visiting us, and you can order documents or ask somebody to do some research on your behalf. And then when you come to search the catalogue, you might be looking for a particular name, a particular location, but you can also search our local studies shop. We sell online as well as in person, and we have a wide range of books, of maps, and other things that you might find interesting for your research. In the local studies library, as well as having books that are published on a mass scale, we also have books that are pamphlets that are produced and booklets that are produced by local history societies. And there's some really interesting things that you can learn from those. It's worth noting that it isn't a lending library, it's a research library, so you do have to go there in person, although some of the material is also available at other local studies libraries within the main libraries, across local studies collections within the main libraries across the county. And then the final thing I wanted to talk about is Hart's Memories. This is our online community archive, and this is an amazing resource, not just for you to look for, maybe if somebody else has done some links to you, has done some research connected to your family, or maybe the place where your ancestors came from. There's a lot of images on here and information about businesses, locations, schools, really wide range of things. But it's also somewhere that you might choose to share your research, where it's a community archive. It's really, we want to build up as wide a picture as possible of the county and have it accessible for everybody. So anybody can upload photos, can upload an article to this site. It is all moderated, mainly by volunteers, so it won't appear instantly, but we aim to get them up as quickly as we can. And it's not just Hart's Memories. We have a number of, connected sites within the Hart's Memories network. We have our Decorum, our Stevenage, our Oxley, our Hertford and Ware, our Hatfield, our Welwyn Garden City, Hart's Past Policing, which is all about, as you might imagine, the history of police force in the area. And there's a lot of, if your ancestors are connected to that, there's a real wealth of material there. And then Out of Sight, Out of Mind, which is primarily about long stay hospitals, of which there were several in Hertfordshire. So we really encourage you to have a look, explore that. You can search all of the sites from Hart's Memories. You can search just there, but then you can also search the network, and that will give you access to all of them, because there are some things that are on a particular one of the sister sites rather than on the main Hart's Memories site. But you can find a wealth of information on there. So if you want to come and visit us, how do you do that? Our opening times are here, and I believe there is a flyer that you will be able to, you'll have sent to you. It's worth noting that although we are open weekends, the first and third Saturday and the first Tuesday of the month, you do need to pre-order documents for both of those. And for the Tuesday, you need to book in advance by the end of the previous week. Otherwise, we only open if there are bookings. But we're really, really keen for people to come and visit. We've got a lot of very helpful people who can assist you, who can, if you're having trouble finding things in the catalogue, and who will help you look at how to handle documents. We've got weights, we've got wedges, we've got all sorts of things to ensure that you can access things as best as possible, because we want you to come in. We want you to discover some of the fantastic things that we have. This is how to get in touch with us. If you use Facebook, we are active on there. We're hoping to get Instagram at some point. That's in process. But Facebook is a great place where we share a lot of our images from documents and interesting snippets from the collection. Thank you very much for listening. I'm sorry it was a real whistle stop, and we could have talked for an hour and a half, but hopefully I've given you an overview, and we'll be about at the end for any questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sarah. That's Next up is Felicity Brimblecombe, and she is the chair of Hertfordshire Family History Society.
Hello, the Hertfordshire Family History Society are proposing to provide a rapid review of some sources useful for searching ancestors in our county. And as we've had noted in chat, we are Hertfordshire, because basically I should have changed that to a big T, because there's a lot of confusion, particularly on transcripts of whether between Herefordshire and Hertfordshire. So we'll sort that one out to start with. So basically what I want to do at the beginning is tell us a little tiny bit about our Family History Society. We're nearly 50 and we've just had a new logo. So this is a combination of a pasque flower of Hertfordshire and the heart of Hertfordshire to combine into making a family tree. Hope you like it. This was one of our lovely members from America that did this for us recently. Publications that we produce, we have Quarterly Journal, and here's the one that's just gone out for March. And our main supplier of information that we produce is GenFair. So just looking at what's there, we got some specialised publications, some of which have been mentioned by SOG earlier. Some of them are things like books, or you can purchase USB sticks with information. Membership, of course, we hope that we might be gaining some new members from this. It's only from £9 a year, so please join us if you want to. And our biggest thing that we've done about is monumental inscriptions. And here is a parish map of you've already seen it slightly that shape, but this has got the parishes on, and you can see that nearly all of it is not white. There's a few places that are still white that we need to complete, so it's a big project. So this is going to be a very rapid review. We've all been working rapidly, but don't panic, because there'll be a handout and you've got a recording you can listen to, and some things you will know because they're obvious, and some things might be more obscure. So here we go. I'm actually going to use Granny. We're going to use examples of Granny's family so that you can see how I found about our ancestors by looking at things that we found about Hertfordshire. We'll also look at a quick pop over some of the county boundaries, because often things in different counties that are relevant for Hertfordshire are not quite as easy to find. You have to get used to your county. So online things, we've obviously got quite a few free places you can find information. But what we've got is the bulk of the original records that you might want to find for Hertfordshire are on the subscription site Find My Past. Or, of course, as we've just heard, TALS, Hertfordshire Archives. If you're used to using Ancestry, well, if you try their card index, you'll find for Hertfordshire there's only about 7,000 pieces of information, which just goes to show how much more important Find My Past is for you if you're searching in Hertfordshire. So here's Granny and here's her dad. I'm going to cover a couple of things that I think are obvious, but when we've been doing Zoom query sessions, they aren't obvious to some of the people that are asking us about things. So basically, if you've not been using the relatively new research facility on General Register Office online, please do use the GRO, because it's really useful for what's going on. I think I need to plug my laptop in quickly because I've just gone, looks as if I'm running out. That's better. Don't want to go flat on you when I'm halfway through. And so, but on the same basis, the GRO also now has the age of death from 1837, which is really useful to look up things. And I haven't even started on Hertfordshire yet, so I think I'd better get on with that. So basically, William Elcock left a widow and 3 young children. Was Granny an orphan? Well, you're probably going to say, well, no, because the widow's there. She wasn't an orphan. But for some reason, some things, orphans are considered to be somebody where the breadwinner's disappeared. And that's why Granny went to a boarding school. And she was actually at the London Orphan Asylum at Watford. Was moved to Watford in 1871. And there's a really unusual source of information for the Surrey History Centre of Cobham if you're looking for Hertfordshire ancestors. But actually, it's not quite as difficult as that because I've now discovered they're also on Find My Past. So we go back another generation and we've got yet another William Elcock who died aged 34, yet another person that left a widow and 3 orphans and 3 children that were in the London Orphan Asylum. You probably aren't interested in that place, so basically what you really need to know is that Hertfordshire records on Find My Past, there are nearly 500,000 school records, and they are really worth looking at if you're trying to find your ancestors between censuses and things. Hopefully your ancestors aren't in the workhouse, but there's workhouse records you could always look at as well. So we really do need to do more about Hertfordshire, and here we go. So where was William Elcock baptised? Well, he was baptised in Little Haddam, which is in Hertfordshire. He was baptised twice. I mean, I don't know how many of you stop when you found a baptism record, but, you know, sometimes it's worth keeping going. Here's one from Ancestry, which has quite a lot of information on, and that's a nonconformist one. And then 5 years later, William was baptised again in the parish church, along with most of his siblings. Perhaps they were hoping that the family hoped that if they were baptised into the parish, then if they fell on hard times later, they might be helped out. If you want to know where some of these places are, Granny used to live in Luton, which is that red block there. And right over on the east side of the county, we've been looking and we'll continue to look at Little Haddam until we move across to Bruffing. Because what I also want to cover later is why was William Elcock buried in Bruffing when he's largely to do with Little Haddam. So, 2 Williams, we've now got a Daniel. Daniel was an undertaker and carpenter at Little Haddam. And if I'm finding details for him, there's various places we can look, and we'll look at those as we go through this. But starting off, the census is the obvious one, isn't it? But I noticed somebody had said, how do you know when there's things missing? Well, this is one way you can do it. The 1861 census, if you look on Find My Past, it quite carefully says that Flaundon in Hertfordshire is the only parish that is missing or incomplete. Well, actually, if we start looking at the end of the pages of the 1861 census for Little Haddam, you can see it's looking pretty rough around the edges, and it's obviously not the final page because at the bottom left-hand corner there, that last family doesn't have 2 lines indicating the end of the family. So that's why I can't find Daniel in this census. But where else can I find him? Well, we've mentioned the trade directories have been mentioned. They're really useful. Some are on Ancestry, so we can see here in the middle in the red box, Daniel Elcock, carpenter, Little Haddam. And next to him is his brother, John Elcock, grocer and brewer of Little Haddam. Now, yes, we can find those. It's really handy if you can find directories in all sorts of years. And the way to do that is to go via Leicester University and one of their special collections, which has far more directories for both Hertfordshire and for other counties. Well worth a look. Tithe maps are useful. Again, another subscription site, the Genealogist, has tithe records. And here you can find landowners and occupiers. You might think it's not worth looking at if your ancestors aren't landowners, but very often they may be occupying a premises and are mentioned. So here we have landowners on the left, Daniel Elcock. He's not living in what he owns. And then we have John Elcock. He is actually living in one of the properties he owns. And with numbers associated with the plan, you'll see it there. And if we look at the plan in the genealogist, it actually shows you exactly where those plots are. And you can see one is green, which is the one for Daniel Elcock, where he owns it, but he's not living there. And then a little bit further along in the same row of houses, his brother John is an occupier and owner. So what we can do is try and see if we can find any other information. Now, Sarah's just mentioned about private documents in Howes, and there are some private documents about the Elcock family, which I'll tell you more about later. But this particular one says in 1813, Daniel Elcock has a property at Little Haddon Ford, and he's receiving money from somebody for a house and a shop. And you can see how much it costs her. And there's a little scribbled record in a notebook. If we look at John, what John Elcock and what he got, he actually had a property called the Nag's Head. Now that's my photo because then we don't infringe copyright, but if you wanted to look for some better images or use them, then perhaps look for things like Wikimedia Commons because there's a picture of the Nag's Head in there. How else can we check that all this data is right? Well, newspapers are really handy. And this is somebody was saying what specific ones are there for Hertfordshire in the chat. Well, this is the Hertfordshire Mercury, 1846. And it's saying there that John is just selling the pub and the estate may be viewed on application of Mr. John Elcock, the proprietor. So that definitely shows he owned it. Therefore, if you're looking at newspapers, there's some on Find My Past, you'll all find the British newspaper collection useful, and you'll find them elsewhere, for instance, on Ancestry. Now, that pub looked quite old, didn't it? There it is. So where else could we find more information about it? Well, perhaps by looking at Historic England. And Historic England actually shows the Nag's Head Public House as Grade 2 listed and details quite a lot of very old information about the inside of it. So that's again how you can look up places and add the interesting information to just your basic names of your family tree. So back to Daniel. Well, Daniel, by the time he died in 1870, here's his will index information, and it says he's a farmer. If I wanted to know exactly what fields he was farming, I could go back to that tithe map and actually look at what he was occupying, and it would show where he was what building he was occupying and living in, but also the fields that he was farming. Obviously, his burial somewhere, and logically it's in Little Haddon Parish Churchyard, which it is. But perhaps all your ancestors aren't buried in churchyards, in which case you may want to find some of their burials in cemeteries. And again, cemetery and burial records are available for you to look things like that up. And we move on. We've had 2 Williams. We've now got 2 Daniels. This is Daniel the second Daniel in 1841 in Little Haddon, age 70. If you look at his entry there, he's independent. Now that's really annoying because I want to know what his occupation is. And then even more so, why was he independent? So how can we find out something about that? Well, we can do things that are very specific to Hertfordshire. And Sarah alluded to the fact that I would be showing you exactly how to use Hart's Names Online, which is a really useful resource. So we're going to click on that, Hart's Names Online, search that, and up comes a facility to put in a name. So there it is with Elcock put into the surname box. And if we then click on what data is available, you will see that the that search came up with 24 results. Obviously, if it was Smith, it would be a lot more, and you'd have to be far more careful what actual category you were looking for. So we've got a few things there, and down the bottom it's talking about the tithe maps. So if you didn't want to look at them from the genealogist, you could actually look at them via Howes or ask them to actually look at, and you could purchase different entries. Now, I was pretty sure that I got some information in the archive catalogue about my family called Elcock. So I wonder, why doesn't it show up on this particular search? Well, what you can do if you want to check something that's a little bit more detailed is go onto the Howes Names Online, so advanced search section, and you could perhaps go into the catalogue and see what comes up. If we do that, you'll find that you get a thing asking what more information you want to put in, and so you can search the catalogue and you can fill that in and see what occurs. Equally, we could have done it from the very beginning. So instead of putting just a surname in the surname box, we could have not put that there, we could have put that name in the keywords. Now that will show us more details of what's in the archive catalogue. If, for instance, Elcock is not actually catalogued as a surname, so when we were doing a surname search, things might not have come up. And that's the case. They didn't come up because actually in that archive are some private documents for the family. They are available by the public, but they're put in have been put in about individuals, i.e. private people. And what's more, look, there's a beautiful picture of Daniel Elcock. Doesn't he look smart? But we still haven't solved what his occupation is, so we've really got to do that. But what is also that comes out in the archives are some Elcock notebooks. And this actually says in one entry that Daniel, his proper name was Alcock, and he changed it when he went to London. So that again is really useful to find out something as to why you've been researching your ancestors with one name, and oh dear, they'd actually got a slightly different one. But the best way around that is to be using sort of searching for star COCK or something like that for Alcock. Right, so I've taken a picture of the grave at Little Haddam. Now, it's that easy to read what it says, and I probably could have found a picture on Find a Grave as well. But again, it's not always that easy to read what's there. So some people have been putting in chat, what about parish monumental inscriptions? Well, the answer is, as I've shown you, we have got monumental inscription booklets for nearly each parish. And this particular one for Little Haddam says what's been transcribed off the gravestone is that Daniel Elcock was nearly 50 years in the family of the late N.S. Parry, Esquire. So my next scroll is for who is he? So basically, I found a will for a Nicholas Sagar Parry of Little Haddam Place when I searched in the National Archives. And that comes up in the Prerogative Court of Canterbury records, and it says that there was £100 given to Daniel Elcock, butler. So now I know why he was independent, and I know what his occupation is. Now, I would not have needed to go to the National Archives to look it up, but it's still a handy place to be searching things because the PCC wills are now also on Ancestry. So I wanted to know how big Little Haddam Place is. So Hertfordshire Archives have a plan of Little Haddam Place estate in their plans in the archive section. I've had that out and looked at it, great big huge plan. But perhaps if you wanted to look at it more easily, it might be an idea to see how big it is by using OS maps. The best place for those is the National Library of Scotland. So that's the entry for a map that covers this image here. And this image here is, if you get the right OS map, its dates are often shown as grey outlines like this one is, and we can see how big Little Haddam Place is and where it is exactly in relation to Little Haddam Crossroads. And that image I took from the records from the OS maps in Howells. So if we want to find more Elcock data, how have I managed to find things that might be useful? Well, a lot of you have probably tried to find postcards of where your ancestors came from. So this is postcards of Little Haddam and Much Haddam that we bought on eBay. And then you see here on this one, it's got the initials WWE. Well, a little bit of searching, and he's an Elcock. That's William Walker, William Walker Elcock, and he was the photographer. And his pictures were used for postcards of Little Haddam and Much Haddam. How else can we find things? Well, removal orders are quite handy. Another Daniel Elcock, he was removed to his birth parish because presumably he was somewhere else and that parish didn't want to own him as he wasn't born there, and they wanted him removed back to the parish of where he was born so that that parish could pay for him. So basically, There's lots of parish records cover more than births, deaths and marriages. They were often stored in the parish chest, so well worth looking at for any parish. But we produced some books a while ago about Hertfordshire removal orders and Hertfordshire settlement certificates, which you might be interested in. Here's another one that's used, I found that's a useful record of an Elcock. This is Mary. She was a single woman with child who would be chargeable on the parish. So that's what a bastardy bond does. It tries to name the father, so the father becomes the person that needs to pay for the child and not the parish. Things like that are often covered by the old poor law information. And we have produced here either a CD or now a more up-to-date use of records, which is it's the USB stick. Right. We can also find records in other notebooks at Howes, which show that John Elcock, that gentleman who had the pub and who in the directory was supposed to be either a grocer or a brewer, was actually a wheelwright. And that again is in the private, the documents that Sarah has deemed to be private because they're about private individuals, but are available. And this is the book that's, it says that John Elcock was actually, this is an indenture for him to be a wheelwright. And we've come across him when he was at the Nag's Head later. Another one you can find information about is militia ballot lists. They're like having a very early census because they are lists of the men going back well before census returns who were balloted to be the person that would have to go off to war from a village or somewhere. And it's a very useful set of lists of things. And that is also, we have put on a CD and is purchasable from Hertfordshire Family History Society by Jen Fair. Well, we seem to have lost Granny, so we better go back and find her. One of the questions I asked earlier was, why was Granny's granddad buried in Bruffing? And in fact, in a grave of somebody called Merchant. There's the grave. But if we go back to How's Names Online, showing you again how this can be very useful, it gave us 24 results, but we didn't look at the marriages at that time. So if we click on that entry and look at the marriages, it gives us the dates of the marriages and the locations of the marriages and the people. And there is William Elcock of St Pancras, Middlesex. If you remember, that's where he came from right at the beginning. And he's marrying Eleanor Merchant of Braffing. And what we've got are 3 Elcock siblings marrying 3 Merchant siblings. So investigating Braffing and the Merchant family. Well, what we've got is Granny's maternal great-granddad was James Merchant, Eleanor's dad. And he was another wheelwright here. He was a publican and a wheelwright at the Brown Bear in Braffing. Looking in Hart's Names Online, we can find he was connected with another pub as well, the Crown and Falcon in Braffing. Often when Hart's Family History Society or anybody else is asked for records about a large area, the best place to go and ask for that information can be a local history society of a specific place. And if we look at the Hertfordshire Association for Local History website, their last drop-down menu is Local History Societies. And if we click on that, we will find a great big long list. Look, this is the A's to nearly the end of the B's, where I've stopped at Braffing Local History Society, so we can find out more about what they've got about Braffing. And what they've got on there is they say that there's no tithe map of Braffing. Most places in Hertfordshire have a tithe map, but the Braffing doesn't. But there is a map of Braffing that was made in 1863, and that can be quite useful. On their website, they've got a nice little picture here, which shows the church, and then a house over there, which is the Brown Bear. That was the pub that we've already seen mentioned. So what about that nice map that they've got? Well, it is very useful because it shows you exactly where places are. So there's the Brown Bear. And it also gives you a description of what the size is, what was there. And it says it's a lady called Merchant. And in fact, it's actually the widow of the person that you saw earlier that I said was at the Brown Bear. I don't know about you, I have very, very few ancestors that can rustle up a grave with a gravestone, which is really annoying. But in Braffing, I've hit the jackpot. There's 14, all those ones there that you can see are all merchant graves. And the first one right at the front of the picture is the one where William Elcock is also buried, and that solves that little problem. So again, going back to our monumental inscription booklets, and there's lots of information about these graves in there. But Hertfordshire graves, as has also already been said, were recorded by other people, so that both in 1908 and 1807 there was quite a reasonable survey of a lot of gravestones in churches. And when you look at our monumental inscription booklets, the reason that they are slightly more useful than sometimes Find My Grave picture is here are just 3 of the merchants that are in those 14 graves, 2 of them at the top there. It was fairly easy to read the gravestone, and then by checking with either parish registers or Gearish's list of graves, we can confirm that those 2 were right when Hertfordshire Family History Society compiled its list. The next grave, well, it was hardly readable. In fact, they could hardly do anything. It probably was a merchant. But what the booklet, the MI booklet, then tells you is who they think it is, because they have actually put all the data together, and they've also looked at the details from Gearish and from the parish registers and actually said who they think that gravestone is about. Not all the gravestones that Herts Family History Society looked at were we could find links to Gearish and cousins. But what we have done in the end of the manuscript of the MI booklets is list the graves that are listed by Gearish that we didn't find as a Family History Society, and also some graves of the Congregational Chapel. So it's a bit of a plug for our monumental inscriptions. They can be well worth buying. So we've just looked at a map of 1860s, so let's go further back to a map of 1800s. And a lot of you will know about OS maps that Sarah's just mentioned, but this map actually is an Ordnance Survey drawing that predates Ordnance Survey maps. This is the Ordnance Survey drawing for Buntingford, which you can see at the top, and Braffing is shown down at the bottom. They are on the British Library, but the easiest way to look at them online is via Wikimedia Commons. And I'm now going to move to another parish to find out a few more ancestors and how you can find details of them that are related to Granny, and that's at a place called Westmill. And here we are, we've zoomed back to Granny's 5th great-grandfather. And he's William Merchant, he's at Tyler's End in Westmill, and there is the house that is now called Tyler's End. If you want to find out more about them from maps, then the 1766 map by Jurian Andrews has been digitised, and you can zoom into it and look at various areas. I've actually looked at it at Howes, and there is a section of it where it shows Westmill and Tyler's End, where I'm interested in. Names Online has lots of interesting will lists, and there is William Merchant that was at Tyler's End, and we can look at his grave, his will at Heart's named at Howes, and get a transcription. Now, William Merchant is about the only person I know on any of my family history that I can go backwards a long way, and William married somebody called Rose Dards in 1683. And if we look on the Discovery of the National Archives and do a search, we can find something that Sarah also mentioned, estate papers for Nedworth that mention a Dards, and then that very kindly routes you to the Hertfordshire Archives reference if you wanted to pursue those. So I'm just going to nip across the county boundaries to give you a little bit more information, because parishes can often change counties, and often we need to know what you can find specifically that's of interest in a different county. So looking at Bedfordshire, where Granny came from, you can see on our monumental inscription map, when I blow it up, that several parishes there have moved to Bedfordshire or from Bedfordshire to Hertfordshire. One of them is Kensworth, And Kensworth, there's a lot of Baptists there. And we have produced a book of Baptist information about Kensworth and St Albans area, and that's published and available by us. That also brings us to a nonconformity book by Alan Ruston, who's our president, which is very useful. And I think the SOG is about to produce a new book by him on an aspect of nonconformism. Bedfordshire has very few online sources, particularly not original ones, but it does have a fantastic collection of electoral registers, nearly 8 million entries going up to 1986. And hopefully more counties will be actually putting those online because it fills a lot of gaps in the last century. If we look at a corner of Cambridge and Essex, Granny's ancestors came from another little village, which is very good, with a very good village history site. And it tells us the exodus of a lot of their agricultural late workers to places like Australia. So really handy for finding out about their details. We have actually produced a book which lists the criminals that were prosecuted in Hertfordshire and were transported rather than volunteering to go abroad. And there's an update for that is due out sometime soon. Personally, I find it really annoying that there's lots of documents of those that are transported and those that are left behind hardly covered. But that's one of the problems with family history, isn't it? Looking at our complicated county boundary, which is the same for any county, if you're interested in people over in Bishop Stortford, well, their records could be in Hertfordshire or Essex. So it's always useful to look at a county boundary that is accurate and really complicated. Genealogists is a good site for that, and you can see here that there's that's a little complicated bit around Bishop Stortford, so you can start to see where perhaps you should be looking for your ancestors if they're anywhere on that boundary edge. The other thing I find really useful, really useful, is the Essex Wills Beneficiaries Index in Find My Past. And if you haven't come across that, then allow me to introduce you how to find it. Go into Find My Past, look at all record sets, filter by Essex, and up comes a Essex Wills Beneficiary Index. And you're going to say, well, why the dickens do I want that? Well, largely because the jurisdiction of wills in the Archdeaconry of Middlesex covers both Essex and some Hertfordshire wills. So therefore, if you could well find the person you're looking for has a will on this. So here we go, the Essex Beneficiaries Index. It was done a long time ago by a lovely lady. You can see the old-fashioned typewriter printer there. And we've got a William Chapman of Little Haddam, LH. And there's a Bill, that's a brother-in-law. And there's a will for W. Levins. Now, this is a case where the transcript is much more useful. And you can see it's all there, telling you about it. So let's see if we can find that will. If you then go to the Essex archives and do a search, you'll find a will of a William Levins of Peaks Green, Little Haddam, and he's a yeoman. You'll probably find a blurred image, which you can sometimes read enough of to tell whether you really want to actually buy it or not. And then you can get to Essex archives either online or actually and get a copy of that actual will. So just one little trip down to the bottom there to Middlesex. We've already covered, and it's been said that Barnet changed, so Hertfordshire lost Barnet at one point, but gained Potters Bar and South Mimms, which all gets a bit complicated when you're trying to work out where to look for your ancestors. So if you look at this website, Wikipedia, it actually lists some of the boundary changes, which is quite handy. Right, so I hope I've managed to say in my half an hour. That's the end of a few hints, and I hope the start of your research delving into more data. Do get in touch with the Hertfordshire Family History Society. We've got a website coming soon, and my name and email address are there, and also on the handout of all these sources that you're going to get as soon as we finish all this online recording. I hope that helps. If you wanted to go to Hertfordshire Archives, Hertfordshire Family History Society have booked it for the library area, which has all the family history information in on Saturday the 15th of March from 2 o'clock to 5 p.m. If you want to know more about that, then look on our social media or email me. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Felicity. So Dr. Paula Orcott is a Senior Research Associate at the University of Portsmouth and a contributor to the local history website, A Vision of Britain Through Time.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our website. Now, we don't deal with individual people. We don't deal with individual buildings. And we don't deal with streets, but we do deal with places. And the idea is that our website will help you get an idea of what the place your ancestors lived in was like. So just to help you understand a bit more about the area and how they might have lived. And you can search our website by a place name, or you can use a postcode, and we'll give you back old maps, descriptions from the past of what the area was like, and statistics. So I'm going to give you a little walkthrough of how to use our site. This is the homepage of the website. And to start using it, you just type in a place name into the search box on the left-hand side. So for today, we're going to use the example of Watford. Now, if you type in a place name and there's more than one place in the country that has that name, it will offer you examples of where they might be. In this case, we're going to go for option 1, which is the Hertfordshire Watford. And this takes you to a place page for the place that you're searching for. The idea is this has two functions. The first is that it gives you information immediately about the place that you're interested in. And the second is it's a stepping stone to further information. So to start with, you have a map at the top, which an indicator map on the outline on the right, which shows you where in the country it is. And then we have an excerpt of historical map on the left. Just below that, you have information from a historical description of the place. So if you want to see that more in full, you just click on the show further information, and it expands to show you the whole of that entry, in this case for Watford. So when you've read that, you might think, oh, what else can I read about Watford? So in the left, you see there's a historical places and writing option. And if you click on that, it will take you to further writings about the place that you're interested in. And we start at the top with descriptions that link directly to Watford from Bartholomew's Gazetteer and the Imperial Gazetteer, both of which are from the late 19th century. Below that are links to other places that are also from those gazetteers, but for much smaller places, but had a relevant link to Watford in this case. And underneath that, we have links to writings by travellers. There are itineraries and journeys around the British Isles, and they're ordered by the number of times they reference the place that you're interested in. So if we select one of these, we're actually going to look at William Camden. This is from his description of his travels, which was published in 1610. And there's a description of what he thought when he was writing about Watford. Now you'll see that all the places' names on this page are highlighted in blue. I've ringed the one that's the very first reference to Watford, and the link will always take you to the first reference to the place that you're interested in. Now all the places on this page are indicated by the blue dots, just to show you the range of the places on this particular page about that was from William Camden. And if you click on one of the place names that's in blue, it will take you back to the place page. Next, we're going to look at the historical maps. So if you click on the historic extract from the historical map, it will take you through to our map library. And that will be centred on the place that you're interested in. So in this case, Watford. You'll see we have 3 different kinds of maps. We have topographical maps, which are mosaics and cover the whole country. We have boundary maps and we have land use maps. The boundary maps we don't have for everywhere. It's a little bit more hit and miss. It depends what survived and what we could scan. Underneath is a list of the map sheets that we have available to view. And as you pan and zoom the map window, it will update that list below. So, and then if you click on one of the links in the list below, it will actually open up that sheet for the map that you're interested in. So I've just picked a nice one from 1904, and it shows you the whole sheet. You can see the edges, you can see the margins and all the information that's in them, and you can zoom and pan that map. And it will be open in a new tab, so you won't lose where you were on the website. We don't have the detailed street maps like Felicity was showing, but they do. But we have a range of information there. So if we go back to the place page, we also have related websites. Now, if you go to this page, it will offer you a range of different websites. And what happens is if you click on one of these, so for example, you wanted to go to the history of the workhouse, it will take you directly to the Watford page on the history of the workhouse. And that's the same for all websites that are in this section. And it's the same for any place that you're looking at through our website. So any place page, you'll go to related websites and it will take you to their page about the place you're interested in. The other thing we have in our website is statistics, and we look at these in two ways. The first way is where we take the modern unit and we look at it through time. Now, when I say modern, at this point, it is 2011. We are in the process of adding in the 2021-22 census data. It should be complete in the next 3 months. So bear with us a little bit on that. So if you click on the link at the bottom to go through to the information about the modern district, we arrive on the page which has statistical themes. And you can choose any one of these themes. You can look at on the left, you can see there's a boundary map link, which will show you the area that we're looking at and a link through to the census reports. But in this case, I'm going to select the life and death theme. So if I go to that, I can choose what information I want to see, what statistics. And in this case, I'm going to look at the total births. So the first thing you're presented with is the graph showing the growth in the births over time. And you can tab through to look at the table of information, and then you can also tab through to look at the sources and where we got the information from. Now, obviously, the district of Watford, as it currently exists, does not go back in time in the way that we've presented it. So those numbers were estimates. Good estimates, but estimates nonetheless. If you want to go to the original figures, if you use the left-hand menu, unit statistics, it will present you with a list of all of the different units that have existed over time that relate to Watford. And our little tick box here shows you which ones we have statistics for. Not all of them have statistics. But we're going to look at, again, at life and death. So at the top on the left, we have the registration district of Watford, which existed from 1837. And you'll see that we start in 1850 and we go through to 1911. At the bottom, we have the urban district of Watford, which was local government district. It became a municipal borough in 1922, and it starts in 1911 and goes through to the 1970s. Now, what you'll also notice is that the registration district, it finishes in 1911 with a population of 1,430, and the second local government district starts in 1911 with a total of 910. And that's because the areas of these old units are very different. So the registration district was the town plus the surrounding rural area, whereas the local government district was literally just the town area. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to have some questions and I'll hand over to Malcolm.
I think quite a lot of the questions have actually been dealt with in chat, and thank you to those who have answered them. And some of them I think we'll have to skip because they are fairly, I think, sort of rather specific to an individual's research, and perhaps better done by an email to the archives or the Family History Society. So there's one topic that came up with two people, both Karen and Peter, asked very similar questions about the availability. There are some parish registers for which there are only transcriptions available online, and are they all available if you go into the archives? And similarly, from Peter's direction, are there any known gaps in what's on Find My Past?
Probably better if Sarah takes that, I think.
Yeah.
I have to confess, I know that there are some known gaps. I know that there are some registers that have got a little damage to them, I think, as Felicity mentioned. I did notice the question, and I've been trying to find to see if we have a specific list highlighting those, and I'm afraid I don't have that information off the top of my head, and I don't know, and I haven't been able to find that in the last I'm not on site at the moment, so I haven't been able to find that straight away. It is something I will be able to check and come back. I can come back to you on, and I'm really sorry I don't have that information to hand. I don't know if Felicity knows any. She may know some more about that.
I can't give you specific ones. It just depends what you've happened to looked at yourself. But I know if I'm looking for somebody, and some of the Hertfordshire records and they're online, the best thing to do is to inch your way through all the pages, because then you can see when they're damaged, when the ink's faded, when the mice have got to them, when it suddenly jumps a couple of years. And I think it's probably impossible for even Howes to have a full list of every single little bit that's missing. And I would be absolutely amazed if all the registers from right at the point that they were started in the 1500s are all totally available. I think we're absolutely amazing that as many are as available as there are, and hence the need to actually be able to look elsewhere, like sort of the militia lists or anything else, when you're looking for people.
Yeah, I think
it didn't sound very helpful, but
early parish registers do have a historic habit of disappearing somewhere over time, don't they? And I certainly know when we came to scanning Oxfordshire registers that there are one or two that were judged to be in such a poor condition that they couldn't even really risk putting them under a scanner to scan them. So there are bound to be some gaps, but what have we got here? Some of the we had an inquiry that involved references to the Honourable East India Company, which I think was dealt with, but I did pick out that there was an inclusion of references to land holdings in Hertfordshire. So presumably that's something that the archives would have some knowledge on.
I know we do have records of land holdings. We have a lot of information that's come through estates, and sometimes that includes land that was previously part of an estate as well. If there's a specific, it sounds like there might be quite a specific inquiry there within that. So I think the best bet will be to send an email, and then we can see what we can find out.
And that might be, sorry.
I was going to say that there are some very specific ones that I've used elsewhere, because one of the other things I do is research historic gardens. And I think it's something like 1870, isn't there, a sort of almost a nationwide document that actually lists who owns what where. And I know I've used it in Bedfordshire.
Sorry, running down my list. Yes, there's also a question about policing records, and specifically World War II specials. do you hold police records?
We do. A lot of them are in very poor condition and so have been digitised and are available through Hert's Past Policing. But there's a lot of information about First World War specials, but very limited about Second World War. And I think that's just the time period. It's we tend to go up to 100 years, and just to ensure that privacy, GDPR, that side of things,
Yeah.
we've in common with a lot of archives. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we don't have them. I know we do hold a lot of records, and but I know that the Hert's Past Policing has a lot of things for the First World War, and also some information about individuals later on. Now that might include people who were special constables. So it's worth, if you have somebody who you know was involved in the police at that time, it's definitely worth looking on there, or asking a question. We've got a lot of people who are connected to the police force who work on there, who have the links, and there are community groups available. But yes, I think we stopped at First World War for a lot of the work that was going on, just because of the time when the work was being carried out. We're hoping that over the next few years, we're going to be opening up some more of our later records, but we're constantly updating what we have available.
Right.
But
Sorry.
for that, they're very useful. The Herts Association for Local History. I just showed you the start of a whole list of clickable links that route to various villages and towns, historical societies. You will also find on there things like links to Herts Policing, which you can just click on it and go through to the website. So lots of things there that are clickable on that particular overarching website.
Right, thank you. Very quick answer, I would say, give my own answer to Bob. No, double baptisms are not confined to Hertfordshire. They are not that uncommon overall. Theoretically, I'm aware that sort of within the Church of England, in theory, you get baptized once and you shouldn't be baptized again, but not all parents can remember whether their children were baptized, and not all incumbents believe what the parents say and insist on rebaptizing, I think. I think we've covered. There was a query about Tyler's End or Tiller's End. I did look at that's not a place name though. I've forgotten where that came up.
It's actually a house.
Right.
It's a house that one of my ancestors lived in. It's in the parish of Westmill, but when you actually go on the Drury and Andrews map, which I said was zoomable, and you can go in and zoom and find it, or look at the one in Howes, it's a specific house that was effectively a yeoman farmer's residence. But it was just an illustration of how easily you can actually find where people lived and a bit more about them. If you're lucky enough to know the information you're looking for.
And I think the Roman Catholic records request was covered. And Marda has asked where I think we will endeavour to get all the web links from the chat sent out or they will be looked through and harvested for the follow-up email tomorrow. So apologies if I've skipped your questions, but I'm aware that we are running over time. So I think we'll call the questions a day there, unless you want to stop the recording and go for hands up questions.
Yeah. So I'd just like to do a final thank you to all our speakers today for a very informative session, and we look forward to reading the handouts. Thank you very much.